Eric, thanks to my funding, became the handsome and wealthy guy everyone admired in school. So, when I was falsely accused of assaulting a female student, no one believed me. It was all part of his plan. My dad tried to clear my name and got reported by Eric for bribery, leading to our company's bankruptcy and takeover by competitors. Dad was devastated and died of a heart attack. I was hit by a car while walking down the street with his ashes, and died too. Meanwhile, Eric became the hero who stood up to power, married a rich girl, and reached the peak of success. Then I woke up back in my freshman year. Seeing Eric hosting a dinner at a 5-star restaurant, I quietly decided to cut off all my funding for him. This time, I'm curious how long he's going to keep up the act. Today, Eric's treating. Order whatever you want, everyone. Man, he really is the top guy. I heard this place is super expensive, like 10 grand a meal. Without him, no way we'd be eating here. Eric sat there soaking in everyone's praise with a big grin. Seeing me standing by awkwardly, he impatiently shoved me. Ben, what are you standing here for? This is on me. You better wire this month's money to me soon. It wasn't until then that I realized I had been reborn. He treated, I paid, and all the glory went to him. What a perfect plan. Huh? Eric had long forgotten that he was just a poor student sponsored by my family, thanks to everyone's compliments. Funny how in my last life, I couldn't see through his facade and willingly became his cash cow, only to have my family destroyed. Remembering my past life, I smirked and made a call to the butler. Cancel all financial support for Eric from today onward. Yes, this month's payment isn't going to happen. When I first met Eric, he was skinny like a monkey, nothing like the branded guy living in luxury now, pretending to be a wealthy heir. He was from a rural village with nothing to his name. Even after getting into college, he couldn't afford tuition or living expenses. Feeling sorry for him, I decided to help him out, promising to cover all his college costs. When he first arrived in town with nowhere to go, I offered him a place in our house because we had plenty of rooms. My clothes, sneakers, and cars were his to borrow if he wanted. But I never imagined I'd spend millions raising an ungrateful brat. In front of me, he'd play poor and miserable, begging me to increase his allowance. Around others, he'd flaunt wealth, acting like a genuine rich heir. When I confronted him, he said he didn't want anyone to look down on him anymore, wanting to make more friends now that he was out of poverty. I was touched by his words, and since I could afford it, I let him do as he wished. Little did I know my tolerance made him worse, and he eventually spent $500,000 in a single month. Just before graduation, he set me up for allegedly assaulting a female student with fake video evidence. I had no defense. My dad tried everything to clear my name but was reported by him for bribery. Our company fell into bankruptcy, allowing rivals to take over. Dad's life work was gone, driving him to a heart attack, and he passed away. The police cleared my name, but with nothing left, I wandered the streets with Dad's ashes and got hit and killed by a truck. After my death, I learned Eric plotted with our company's rivals, taking a big payoff to ruin us. He used the money to marry a rich girl and climb to the top. I was just a stepping stone on his path to success. He found happiness while my family was destroyed. How could I not hate him? So I left the dinner making up an excuse. Soon after, Eric blew up my phone with calls and texts until my hand went numb holding it. Ben, why haven't you sent this month's money yet? Either come pay now or wire the money. Hurry or else. If you let me down in front of our classmates, I'll make you pay. I was curious about what he could do to me, so I blocked him. Eric, not giving up, harassed the butler, demanding money, but the butler ignored him as I instructed. With no options, he resorted to maxing out his credit to cover the $23,000 bill. Yeah, that's how much he spent this time. Now, thinking back, I can't believe I bought his stories and let him take advantage of me like a sucker. After the party, Eric stormed over to me, fuming. Ben, what's your deal? Why'd you cut my funding? That's my money. You've got no right not to pay. Staring at his once so familiar face felt strangely foreign to me now. Where did he get the nerve to threaten me? I stared at him coldly. From now on, you're on your own. I won't give you another dime. Get out of my house now. Eric's tone softened when he noticed my serious look. Ben, don't mess around. Get the butler to settle this bill and wire me $20,000 more. Tina wants a bag, and I need to buy it for her. I chuckled. And why would I care? Realizing I wasn't budging, Eric's expression soured. You're my bro. You should help me. We don't even share a last name. Where's this brother talk coming from? Used to spending my money and enjoying the good life, Eric couldn't take the sudden humiliation and grew furious. Ben, remember you voluntarily sponsored me and promised to support me through college. You can't just go back on your word. That money's rightfully mine. If you don't give it, I'll take you to court. I laughed. First, it was just a verbal promise. Second, I've spent enough on you to fund 1,000 students like you these past years. If you just get the hell out of here today, I'll consider that money as lost to the dogs. Otherwise, you'll have to pay back everything you took from me. I'm not leaving. Eric flopped onto the ground, resorting to his usual tricks. I'm not leaving this house today unless you give me the money. Did he really think he had me cornered? What a joke. In the end, the 2 bodyguards I hired tossed him out the door. He was so mad and yelled curses outside. It wasn't until I let the dogs out that he scrambled away. Knowing Eric's nature, I knew he wouldn't let this go. So, I spent 2 days going through the money I spent on him over the last 2 years. I was shocked to find it was $400,000 to $500,000, not including all the stuff he took or borrowed while eating and drinking at my place. The next day at school, everyone shot me weird looks. When I got to class, there was a crowd around Eric, glaring at me. Ben, pay back what you owe Eric. He's too nice to pressure you, but we aren't. I looked at them like they were idiots. Eric's sidekick Mike banged the table. Are you going to pay the money back or not? I ignored him, glancing at Eric with a smirk. Did you tell them I owe you money? Eric looked a little guilty. Ben, we've known each other a long time. Just give me the money and I'll let everything else go. Mike jumped up. No way. You gotta pay every dime with interest. Eric looked at me, expecting me to give in. But no way was I gonna let him get what he wants. I don't know what Eric told you guys, but I don't owe him any money. In fact, he owes me. The room went quiet for a second, then burst into laughter. Mike clutched his stomach. Ben, you think we don't know? You're just the son of Eric's family driver. It's hilarious to think the boss would borrow from the help. I couldn't believe what Eric had been telling people about me. Since when was I the son of their driver? Seeing everyone on his side, Eric looked pretty smug. I smirked. You say I owe Eric money? Where's the proof? Mike said dismissively. Eric told us he didn't make you sign an IOU, just because you're the driver's kid and all. You found a loophole. I laughed mockingly. No IOU, huh? What about transfer records? If you can show me either, I'll pay you right now. Everyone turned to stare at Eric. Yeah, Eric, show us what you got. Eric just glared at me, not making a move, because he couldn't produce anything. I looked back at him coldly. Can't produce it, huh? No worries, I have something. I handed everyone printed statements. You've all been fooled by Eric. He's not a rich kid, just a student my family supports. Mike immediately rebuffed. Who's buying this? If he's so poor, how come he's got so much money? I did have a driver pick me up for school rides, sometimes giving Eric a lift if we were heading the same way. But he mostly drove himself around. As for my clothes, Eric had a habit of taking them without asking. After a while, even I couldn't tell which he wore and which he didn't. Seeing us in similar outfits and hearing Eric's stories, people thought I wore his hand-me-downs. Realizing I was serious about exposing him, Eric tried to defuse the situation, signaling to me, Ben, quit it. We'll talk about the money later. Let's break up the crowd. Too late to be scared now. I was determined to expose his true colors right there. To make it clear for everyone, I pulled out an iPad and played a video. It was Eric at my place, causing a scene, admitting I was supporting him and asking for money. Instantly, everyone's view of him changed. Eric's face turned pale, trying to explain. It's not what it looks like. I'll clear this up later. He glared at me viciously. Ben, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Get lost. I chuckled. Think that's embarrassing? Eric, you've been mooching off me. living in my house, driving my car, and backstabbing me. I let it slide since I promised to put you through college. But you stole my watch and jewelry to impress Tina, didn't you? I added it up, $240,000. And you better pay every penny back, or we're going to court. Tina, the school's beauty queen, had a family business. To win her over, he threw money at gifts and stole my stuff when he ran out. I knew but didn't bother him before. Well, now I do, and I want every cent back. Eric was dumbfounded. You're bluffing. No way it's that much. My watches are designer and easily hit tens of thousands each. That's even after depreciation. Suddenly, a female voice piped up behind me. Eric, is it true? Did you lie to me this whole time? Turning around, there was Tina, Eric's girlfriend. Eric panicked. Tina, no, listen to me. Tina ran off crying, ignoring him. Eric tried to chase her, but I blocked him. I grinned, all smug, extending my hand. Want to leave? Fine, just return my car first. Eric shot me a death glare before angrily tossing the keys at me. As Eric fled, his sidekicks scattered, their faces sour, with Mike spitting out curses. And this wasn't over yet. I posted that video of Eric on the school's forum. Suddenly, he turned from the school's heartthrob to a laughingstock. Meanwhile, after Eric returned my car keys that day, I found my car had a long scratch and the windows were scuffed when I went to get it. I heard he and Mike went to the racetrack recently, so it probably happened then. The damage report came out quickly. I put the blame on Eric. After that day, Eric didn't show up at school for a while and I couldn't find him. Worried he'd bolt, I took him to court. Besides the $2.4 million he stole from selling my stuff, he also owed me $300,000 to fix the car. But that $300,000 was split among everyone who went to the racetrack with Eric that day. Mike was there too. Later, he found me hoping I'd waive the fee. Naturally, I refused. He stormed off, huffing, and I heard he gathered some people to confront Eric. A few days later, Eric not only showed up but also paid me back. His gang followed him just like before. Tina was in his arms, he whispered something, and she blushed and kissed him. She was holding a new designer handbag, the one she had her eye on before. I raised an eyebrow and quickly figured out what was going on. Seems like Eric made contact with our family's rival company earlier this time. Eric and his group stopped me. With Tina by his side, Eric looked smug. Ben, you didn't expect this, huh? I was just fooling you the whole time. I never needed your support, just thought it was funny to play you. Didn't expect you to actually give me so much money. Ha! Trying to keep his rich kid facade after what happened. Eric wanted to save face in front of his gang and Tina. As expected, his followers burst out laughing along with him. Mike looked me up and down and shamelessly said, Ben, since you've got money to throw around, why not share some with us too? Eric was cool enough to pay us back the entire $300,000 for the car repairs. I gave him a mocking smile. Do you know how many years you get for extortion? Mike's face turned pale. I couldn't be bothered with him. I stared at Eric without expression. And I recorded everything you just said. As you mentioned, you've committed fraud. If you kneel and apologize right now, I might forgive you. Otherwise, I took out my phone and waved it in front of him, threatening. Eric's face instantly turned grim. It was clear to both of us. The money was a voluntary donation. As long as he admitted his true identity, I couldn't really threaten him. Plus, I never actually recorded anything, just bluffing. I pondered as I looked at him. Are you going to kneel or not? Eric gritted his teeth and stayed silent. It felt like ages before. Just as I was impatiently thinking about leaving, Eric suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I never thought he'd rather kneel publicly than reveal his true identity. Just shows how stubborn he is. Seeing her boyfriend kneeling, Tina stomped her foot, furious. Eric, what are you doing? Get up. I glanced at Tina. Oh, by the way, you should probably have that bag checked at the store. With those words, Tina's face changed dramatically. She threw the bag at Eric. You liar. I'm breaking up with you. Eric jumped up. Tina. But Tina was already walking away without turning back. Finding it all pointless, I got into a Rolls-Royce parked by the street. I even waved at them through the window just to rub it in. Eric stared after me with a flash of resentment in his eyes. Tina broke up with Eric. No matter how much Eric begged, she wouldn't change her mind. Eric's hatred for me reached a peak. One day at the library, I ran into someone from my past. This woman walked right into me without looking. Her acting was so lousy. I can't believe I was blind enough not to see through it in my past life. She smiled, all fake. Fancy meeting you here, Ben. I watched her calmly. I'll never forget that face. She and Eric once set me up, claiming I attempted to assault her, with hotel footage backing her up. I had no way to refute it. Linda flipped her hair and batted her eyes playfully. Ben, it's been a while. Let's grab some coffee. She was confident I wouldn't say no because I once had a crush on her. But before I could confess, Eric noticed my feelings and went after her. Linda soon fell for his charm while he kept stringing her and Tina along. After snapping back to reality, I smiled at her. Sure. Seeing this, Linda's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Since then, Linda started contacting me more. She'd text or call out of the blue, share little things from her day, and frequently ask me out for meals. She'd even wait for me after class sometimes. If I didn't know what she and Eric were plotting, I might have thought she was genuinely interested. Seeing all this, classmates would tease about whether we were dating. She'd shyly say, "Stop it. Ben and I are just friends." That act only made it seem more obvious. Once, while Eric passed by us, he surprisingly didn't bother me and simply walked with his group in silence. But Mike gave me a mocking grin over his shoulder. Before long, Eric just couldn't contain himself. That day, as soon as I got out of class, Linda ran up to me all excited. "Ben, it's my birthday today. We're celebrating at the hotel tonight with some friends. You have to come." Of course, I'll definitely be there. I could hardly wait. Linda's party was at a 5-star hotel. With her family's situation, there's no way they could afford it. This whole setup was Eric's doing to trap me. As soon as I walked in, I saw Eric in the corner. When our eyes met, he flashed me this shady smile. I acted like I didn't see it and looked around the room. Linda was in a white gown, surrounded by a bunch of girls. She kept sneaking glances at Eric, thinking she was being all sneaky about it. After a few drinks, Linda swayed over to me and pushed a spiked drink into my hand. Last time around, I drank it without a clue and soon felt all hot and bothered. She took advantage and led me to an upstairs room. Under the influence, I unwittingly made moves on her. She pretended to resist, and they caught it all on the hotel's security cameras. Then Eric showed up with the cops. I was dragged to the station, and my reputation was shattered. This time, after taking the drink, I glanced behind Linda. My bodyguard, dressed as a waiter, got my signal. He casually bumped into me, swapping the drink when no one noticed. Linda tensed up as the bodyguard approached, but when she saw I still had my drink, she relaxed a bit. She kept pushing me to drink, and I played along, tossing back half the glass. Her eyes lit up instantly. A few minutes later, I pretended to feel the effects, loosening my collar. She immediately came closer. Ben, are you okay? Feeling drunk? Maybe you should rest upstairs." Feigning weakness, I leaned into her and nodded. She glanced at Eric and led me to the elevator. Once in the room, she tossed me onto the bed, waiting for me to make a move. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I didn't budge. Frustrated, she stripped off her clothes and messed up mine, lying down next to me. With everything set, she picked up her phone. "Okay, come in." Soon, the sound of heavy footsteps erupted outside the door. With a bang, a bunch of cops busted in. Linda instantly pretended to be scared, clutching her clothes and sobbing. I acted startled, as if just woken up by the commotion. Eric pointed at me, furious. "Ben, look at what you've done." Then he looked at Linda, all caring. "Don't worry, the police are here. Whatever he did, just say it and we'll help you." Linda choked up. "I just wanted to help him to the room, 'cause he was drunk, and he tried to assault me. He's a monster. Arrest him." Linda's performance was spot on. The cops were about to grab me. I cut her off. Hold on. You say I tried to assault you? Got any proof? Linda widened her eyes, pointing at my disheveled self. Isn't it obvious? I scoffed. Your word alone isn't enough. I could say you tried to seduce me and crawled into my bed. Eric, seeing me argue, pulled out his phone. See, Linda just sent me a distress message, so I called the cops. Who knows what would have happened otherwise? I glanced at it and slowly smirked. Perfect. Officers, I'd like to report Linda and Eric for drugging me and framing me. Both of them were stunned by the turn of events, looking at me like it was all unreal. Right then, my bodyguard walked in, handed a phone to the cops, showing a video of Linda spiking my drink from the shadows. I slowly stood up, taking off the tiny button-shaped camera. I knew Linda was up to something, so I played along to see their plan, and well, I feigned disappointment and hung my head. The cops immediately got serious. Seeing the plot fall apart, Eric and Linda looked defeated, realizing things had gone completely wrong. In the end, both were taken away by the police they themselves called. Everything soon came to light. According to Linda, Eric had asked her to drug me and ruin my reputation, promising they'd be together after it worked. To convince her, Eric spilled all the details of his rival company's plan. They aimed to take me down with a scandal, ruining me and my family's company to stop our takeover. Eric was paid $500,000 up front, with another half promised upon success. I anticipated this move and had Ben's dad prepare in advance. After the truth came out, Ben's dad immediately called a board meeting, suing them for unfair competition. Meanwhile, the company pushed back hard, snatching up their contracts, causing their stock to plummet, with people online boycotting them. Since I sensed it early on, avoiding any serious fallout, Eric and Linda escaped criminal charges. Still, due to the serious nature of their actions, they were fined and jailed for 2 weeks and now had a record. When the story got out, both Eric and Linda were expelled from school. Once out of jail, Eric called me, asking for forgiveness, hoping I'd help him, 'cause getting expelled meant the end for him. I turned him down. I'm not crazy. Why would I go easy on someone who's repeatedly tried to set me up and wants me dead? When I refused, Eric yelled at me, "Ben, you'll regret this." After that day, I didn't see him for a long time. But knowing him, I figured he'd have more tricks up his sleeve. Sure enough, a month later, my Cullinan parked in the garage was stolen. The guy on the surveillance footage was all bundled up, but I recognized it was Eric from his build. Why would he steal a car? I remembered in a past life, I was hit by a big truck on the road. The thought made me shiver. I didn't hesitate and called the cops right away. The car had a tracker, so Eric couldn't get far. Just to be safe, I hired a couple of bodyguards for protection. Things were calm for a while, and just when I was about to lower my guard. One day, while I was waiting by the road for my bodyguard to grab me a coffee, a black Cullinan started coming at me out of control. One of the bodyguards tried to pull me away, but the car kept coming. I looked up and saw Eric in the driver's seat with a crazed look on his face. I almost got clipped by the car, but my bodyguard pulled me back in time. Suddenly, I heard sirens in the distance. Reluctantly, Eric bit his lip and tried to charge at me again, but with the police getting closer, he had to bail. He turned around and sped off with the cops right on his tail. I didn't relax until a few hours later when the police called to tell me Eric was caught. They'd set up roadblocks all over the city, and a helicopter was reporting his position the whole time. While trying to escape, he crashed hard into a bridge support. The car's front crumpled, and he was trapped unconscious in the driver's seat. At the hospital, they found he had shattered his legs and wouldn't ever walk again. His spleen was ruptured. Even if he survived, he wouldn't live long. When Eric came to, he was still yelling about wanting to kill me. After he's out of the hospital, he's got a long prison sentence awaiting him. I don't feel bad for him at all, considering what happened to me in the past. But there's this inevitable side deep inside me. He could have had a bright future. I thought about having him help me at the company after we graduated, but his greed and malice led him here. In my junior year of college, I started interning at the company. Our competitor, after a year of being crushed by my company, was barely hanging on. Our acquisition plan was going full speed ahead. This time around, I successfully protected myself and the company, and Ben's dad is still alive. Everything's awesome,